Trial and error back to burn for another week. This is Brian. Fearless will be popping in shortly. A couple of things, a couple of housekeeping notes. One, I am kind of got kicked off of live streaming on Facebook for about a month or so. Um, really, and it's something I'm actually appealing. It was a conversation that happened on a private group, and it wasn't anything too egregious. I was stating something that was factual. We are talking about, I think, um, Lawrence Taylor's drug use when he played in the NFL, and I made an offhand comment about, well, I mean, cocaine is a performance enhancing drug, which it is. It's classified under every thing, like every sanctioning body sees it as such, and Facebook didn't like that, so they decided that I was promoting something and decided that they're going to pull my monetization and kick me off the platform from live streaming for about a month. And so hopefully we can make this work. It'll be kind of a workaround. So that being said, like I said, we're waiting for Fearless to join us, but today's episode, we're going to recap a little bit of what we talked about last week with the Overton window and build a little bit more into it. We're going to talk about media literacy and pretty much the death of nuance, how people don't understand subtext, and a couple of other things. And yeah, that's really what we got here this week. My name is Brian. I own a marketing agency called I Sell Words. I'm really trying to pivot into teaching people how to start recording themselves and how to start marketing themselves and do less done for you services. And so that's kind of what I'm on right now. I have multiple podcasts where I talk about multiple things. And so that's what I got going. And I guess we're going to jump into this. For those that were with us last week, we discussed the Overton window. And the Overton window is essentially the window that kind of frames what is considered acceptable discourse in a society. Now, it is racialized. There is a racial component to what's considered okay to talk about and what's not, and a lot of it is contextual based on whom. But in general, it's considered what is considered what is okay to say in society. And it's not about editing oneself or anything along those lines. It really is about what ideas are we going to find acceptable, what ideas are we going to make policy, and what ideas are considered reprehensible and unthinkable. As the Overton window shifts, we start shifting ideas that would have been considered fringe to the mainstream. And so we are talking about the entire shift of that. And there's been more benign examples of it where it's not been that big of a deal. The Overton window used to, tattoos used to be considered something that was outside of what society is deemed acceptable. And now everybody has a tattoo. Mental health struggles used to be considered something that you kept private, and you were stigmatized for sharing or discussing it. And now people talk about this stuff openly. Okay. But then we're also talking about more aggressive ways the Overton window has been shifted in recent years. The mainstreaming of people who are on the spectrum of Nazism, like actual people that espouse Nazi-ish ideas. And so that's kind of shifting more into, from what used to be considered unthinkable into more of a fringe and tipping over into the mainstream. And so that's what the Overton window is. And that's what we discussed last week. The idea is, people act like, that, and this kind of goes into what we're talking about, familiarity with the concept as opposed to having a deep and abiding knowledge of a concept. I've been in arguments where people have created their entire thesis based on some meme that they saw online somewhere, or they've constructed an entire economic argument or economic theory based on something they saw on TikTok. And so these are things that this is an ongoing thing that we need to discuss. So it falls into this conversation here. But yeah, so like I said, last week we talked about the Overton window and a couple of other things. So this week we're definitely going to talk about media literacy and what that actually means as a definition, because it doesn't mean exactly what people kind of see it as. Um, it's the ability to understand context and see something and really understand it, as opposed to simply consuming it, and understanding that there's going to be multiple viewpoints of the thing. Okay, so I think Fearless is coming online here in a moment. Let me go ahead and pull my notes together so that I can be prepared here. Um, and I mean, even pop culture, even some pop culture stuff that seems kind of specious has elements where people are intentionally misunderstanding what the meaning was. I know. I think I got into it as a nerd. I got into it with somebody who was talking about how Star Wars wasn't political up until recently, and it's like, no, movie Star Wars is always a political statement. Um, I think George Lucas even mentioned it was kind of his take on the Vietnam War. And it was really clear that the rebels were the Vietnamese. And so it was even political then. Fearless shared a clip earlier with me where people missed the allegory of what Moby Dick was. The story Moby Dick was a tale of obsession, and how obsession can absolutely ruin a person's life, and eventually cost them their life and their respect and all kinds of other stuff. And so, one of the things that we're missing in this is people's ability to read subtext. You know, context is what being said. Subtext is what's being implied. And I think we're kind of losing um, the concept of subtext and nuance in regular conversation, and especially with pieces of media. I know the entire Sydney Sweeney kerfluffle on a specific part of the internet. Um, it involved a lot of people intentionally misreading a subtext of what was being said. And if you're not aware, it was the entire Sydney Sweeney has great genes. She was reading about what genes are, and then they show, blonde hair, blue eyed. She has great genes, and boom, people read into it. Well, here's the thing: they interviewed the executive who actually was planning this out, and they said, yeah, we had a conversation, we knew exactly what we were implying with it. We knew it was going to ruffle some feathers and stir up a conversation, and that's what their entire intention was. And so people were trying to soft pedal the intentionality of what was being said. I mean, it was an allusion to her being blonde hair, blue eyed, having great genes, in a society where eugenics was a public policy up until like the 90s. So these are real conversations that actually are taking place. And so I think what happens is a lot of times people they have the luxury of only reading context and not reading subtext, and not understanding nuance or anything along those lines. It's just it's an interesting thing, and it's an interesting place where we sit as a society. So, like I said, it looks like Fearless is starting to get on board here. Like I said, and I recapped last week. So let's get into it. This is what media literacy actually means. Media literacy is the ability to interpret what you see and not just consume it. I'm going to repeat that. Media literacy is the ability to interpret what you see and not just consume it. One of the things you need to understand about artists is oftentimes artists are trying to make some kind of other statement with their art. It's kind of the game of, can you discern what I'm talking about? Or can you interpret what I'm saying? Or can you put your own interpretation on it and get you to look internally a little bit and see a reflection of yourself in the art? All right. That's really what a lot of artists do. And even like really hyper commercialized artists have statements that are underneath what they're saying. People have talked about Michael Bay movies specifically. These are kind of celebrations of militarism, because that, um, Roland Emmerich movies. You can get some of the veiled themes of um, the patriotism and how they feel about this country in those movies. And when you ask them about it, when they interview about it, they are very clear about it. Um, one of my favorite movies of all time is RoboCop, right? And a lot of people are nowadays are misinterpreting what RoboCop actually was. It was Paul Verhoeven's statement on hyperviolence in movies. That's one. And capitalism in general. It was a satire. RoboCop was actually a satire. It was a hyper-violent satire. And a lot of people missed out what it was supposed to be talking about. But when they interviewed Paul Verhoeven, that's what he was saying. Starship Troopers is one of the most widely misunderstood movies. And I know the book and the movie vastly differ from one another. But Paul Verhoeven was kind of a send-up. Starship Troopers was a send-up. You know, we in the movie Starship Troopers, we were the bad guys. Human beings were the invading force. You know, if you couldn't pick up on the context clues, look at the brown uniforms. Look at how those uniforms almost look like Nazi uniforms. That was a very intentional statement. And so Paul Verhoeven's kind of known for that. I'm not too familiar with because I think he did Showgirls. I'm not too familiar with what the intentionality was behind Showgirls, but I imagine based on his track record, there was some kind of subtext within there, because that's just how he makes movies. So even
talking about Baby Girl from Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, and so it's talking about context clues and subtext and media literacy when it comes to just even popular culture. You know, there are aspects of popular culture that we assume are just supposed to be easily digestible and disposable, but there's actual meaning there. You know, you don't become, some people just like to secure the bag in Hollywood. And I'm not even going to say that. There are mercenaries out there, people that just like to consume. But at the end of the day, artists are going to do artist stuff. And artists are going to create works of art, even if it's commercial, it's going to be evocative and they're going to be delivering a message. Look how many Jesus metaphors are in a Superman movie. You know, every Superman movie has, a lot of these Superman movies modern day has some kind of weird Jesus metaphor that's kind of shuffled in there, because the entire concept of Jesus is, the concept of Superman is he's supposed to be humanity's savior. And so if you watch, there's plenty of times where there's specific scenes. I think in the last couple, I don't know, I haven't seen the last one. I haven't seen the current one. I'm slacking because I'm normally on top of comic book movies. But I know in Man of Steel, there was an obvious one. And I know specifically in Superman Returns, there was a very obvious one where he's laying there with his arms outstretched and feet crossed and stuff like that, drifting in outer space. And so there was that it's those kind of messages that are woven throughout these movies. So even things that we think are just kind of BS do have some kind of nuance with them. And so,
the one thing about that though, that because I love mythology and stuff like that. I'm one of Joseph Campbell's greatest fans. He's been passed on for many years, but he's also the guy who wrote the book Hero of a Thousand Faces. And he's the guy who came up with the hero's journey, right? And Superman would actually be in the hero's journey, right? People like him just in general. The only problem that I do have with that type of ideology, for the most part, is that a hero of a thousand journey is usually for people that are half man, half God. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not. So you're creating an archetype that you're not going to live up to.
Yeah, that's true.
You see what I'm saying? And maybe that's the philosopher side of me that sees the dichotomy of that. But I love this story. I love the retelling of it. But again, like you're talking about before, is that it's more like Jesus-esque. There's a lot of other movies that are just like that in general, who have this Jesus esque type of archetypal person that we're all supposed to try to live up to, and like
Mhm.
that's not gonna happen,
Well, I mean, even
like
like
at all.
look at the Matrix and stuff. I know
Mhm.
that it wasn't a straight because it was supposed to be thematically a all these different religions kind of combining in a mashup. And so it was always talking about the redeemer, the savior in all these different religions, but that's kind of the metaphor
No,
that was
but it
given
was
there.
more like
Yeah,
Christ. I mean, no, they've there's so many different biblical references
right,
of it that it's kind of hard not to see that. I mean, even his girlfriend's name was Trinity.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
And
he
Morpheus and
he is the one, like the sleep god and
mhm,
the Nebuchadnezzar. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they're all asleep
yeah,
while all these things are going on. So, you know, you can also look at the, you know, here's a fun thing. I was because I love that. That's like my favorite movie.
hmm.
There was a person online who had actually came up with this ideology that maybe
Hey, Chris,
Neo was not the one. But do you know who the one would have actually been?
who would have been
The one would have actually been Agent Smith,
true?
right? All depends on how you look at it. In the beginning, it talks about um in the morning. Hey,
Good
what's going
morning.
on, Josh? In the beginning, it talks about how the one was born inside of the system,
Yeah,
how he can actually change and do anything that he wants. And what did Smith say in the first movie? Bro, I just want to be free. I want to
hmm,
leave here. I've been here through all of this, right? I've seen every iteration of you people. You are a virus that I just want to get rid of you. Give me the codes so I can end this all. And then what happened? At the end of one, Neo goes in, jumps inside of him, reprograms him, blows him up, and then they're thinking, oh, we're good. No, you reprogrammed him.
yeah.
So now he's like, oh, it's to me, it's like the awakening of AI. Like, yeah, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
He's able to do, think about it. He was able to do things that Neo had no idea that could even be done.
Well, and
Agent Smith was duplicating himself.
so now, okay. So here's the thing. So this is how I interpreted it. I think that they're two. Remember how they said Smith is his opposite number?
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
nerding out, gentlemen. We're nerding out,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. So when they say Smith is his opposite number, look at the movie set up. He's opposite in every single way. Neo wants to save humanity. Smith wants to eradicate humanity. Neo wanted to escape the sleep world that he was in and escape the matrix and be in the real world. Smith, he wanted to escape, but it was kind of for a different reason. He wanted to escape all of it. And so Neo felt like this connection to humanity. Smith saw it as a plague. I think that they were both the same character, just have
Two different sides
two
of
different sides of the same character. And so when Neo jumped through Smith, he negated it because -1 plus 1 is 0. It negates, it sets everything back to 0. And so now you have Smith with Neo's powers and Neo with some of Smith's insight. That's kind of how I
Yeah,
view it.
I like that. I like that. And the fact that Agent Smith had been around a lot longer, he knows what you can do and what you can't do.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, the only thing that Morpheus could tell Neo is that when you're ready, you won't have to dodge bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Agent Smith already understands the concept of what bullet? What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's automatic for us
Yeah.
to be
Smith.
able to do that. Smith was able to do stuff that homeboy wasn't able to do.
Well, in the movie, Smith almost tied Neo to, because remember, I think it was the end of the second one where he's like, it's different now, and he could actually sense the machine.
Right. Because he
so-
wasn't awake anymore.
Yeah, and so
He wasn't awake anymore. Right.
merging with Smith gave him it added a connection to the machines. And so that's where it is. One thing I wanted to jump back, you mentioned the entire demigod part of the hero's journey.
Yes.
Okay, Superman follows into that demigod.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I said.
Yeah, because
That's what I said.
he is a god who was raised among human beings to be a
Yes.
man. And so
Yes.
and one of the interesting things, now I'm really about to jump into it.
Go ahead. Let's go.
One of the interesting things is they have the new Absolute Superman book, and this is a version of Superman that not only grew up with his parents on Krypton, but came here as a teenager and only spent a limited amount of time in Smallville. And so it turns into this nature versus nurture story, because even at the end of the day, even though he was barely in Smallville for a couple of months, he formed a connection with humanity and is driven to protect whoever he can protect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just who he is internally. That's his internal drive. Even though he feels fear of humanity and he knows that they don't trust him all the way. This is literally just happened in the book last week.
So what year did he come here?
He came here when he was he had to be 16, 17.
Okay, right. But what year did he get here?
Well,
because think about it, depending on what year he got here, who would he be defending?
Well, okay, so in that universe, it's okay. So in that universe, that version of Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman are living in a world where, so in the regular comic book universe, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman are symbols of order. Like they are the order in the chaos, right? They're the ones that bring order to the world. In this universe, they are the chaos in a totalitarian world of order. So in this world, it's already militarized, it's more technologically advanced, but it's rooted with the seed of evil and oppression. And so in this world, Batman has his mom, but he grew up poor or actually grew up middle class, and he's a lot more violent and a lot bigger.
I'm sure he is.
Well,
I'm sure he is.
Okay, and so the last week's story had him, how he got his no killing rule was Batman spun the block on a bunch of Klan members. Literally, he spun the block on a bunch of neo-Nazis and flamethrowered them and ran over them and killed them and chopped them into meat. And then he looked down at his hands and saw blood all over his hands, and he's like, what would my father think of me? Because his father died, right? And so that's readopted his no killing rule. So in that universe, Batman will absolutely maim you. Like he cuts some guy's hand off and he'll stab people in the eyes, but he won't kill you. He'll just make you wish you were dead. In this world, also in this world,
he won't kill you. He'll just make you wish you were dead.
And so in this world, Wonder Woman was raised in hell as opposed to raised in this idyllic island and everything. And it talks about how she started her arc, but she's still driven to defend. Batman's still driven to protect regular people. Superman's still driven to, even though they grew up in this darker version of the universe, they're still driven. So it becomes a nature versus nurture kind of thing, right? And so when we talk about this kind of stuff, there's all kinds of subtext and allegories stacked on top of each other. And I think what happens is when people consume this, because legitimately people were pissed off about Batman. There's a panel. I will pull it up here. There's a panel of this guy doing the entire Hitler salute, and Batman snaps his arm at the elbow. And people were,
what is this? What are you talking about?
This is absolute Batman. People were
absolute Batman. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into this.
You got to read this one. This is one I would suggest you pick up because it turns the entire mythos of not only Batman, but Superman and Wonder Woman, turns it on his head. And so the annual book was written, let me see, Absolute Batman Annual. People were mad because they're like, they made Batman woke. What made it woke? Well, he killed a bunch of neo-Nazis. Oh, okay. You have a problem with that? Like, you have a problem with that piece of it, like that made it woke. Well, yeah. So what is Batman supposed to do when he encounters neo-Nazis, bro?
Let it go. Ignore
Let it
it.
slide. And so, but yeah, let me pull it up here. And I know there's an entire thing of Batman as a cop and stuff like that. This sets it on its ear. Kind of like
No.
it's kind of like in the Marvel universe, Punisher doesn't like cops that use his symbol.
Okay.
He doesn't like cops that use the Punisher logo. Because he's like, I am supposed to be, he's like, if you're on this side, you're not supposed to you're not supposed to even idolize me. Like I'm doing the stuff that you can't. You're not supposed to look.
I mean, right, yeah, because technically, Punisher's a criminal.
Right. And that's what he says. I'm a criminal. You're not supposed to idolize me. All right, so here it is. Oops. Close that. Close. All right. You see?
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Brent. You can see the bone. He kicked that shit.
Yeah.
He kicked his own. Oh, wow.
And so in this comic book, the difference is in this book, let me go ahead and shut this down. In this book, Batman is like, because you know how they talk about, how could they, how is this regular sized guy going and beating up all these people? In the Absolute Universe, Batman is 6'9", 450 pounds. He's a big son of a gun. So, and he's a big son of a gun who absolutely
6'9".
Yes.
400 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he supplements not being like, so how he gets all of his equipment is he's a civil engineer who works in construction sites all the time. And so his entire Batcave is all these buildings and stuff. And he gets all his weapons because he has this engineering background. Interesting stuff. Anyway, people.
So he doesn't have a Mr. Fox then. He is Mr. Fox.
Yeah, he is Mr. Fox. Well, they haven't introduced Lucius Fox yet. Okay. Alfred is a MI6 agent, like a British secret agent who's killed, like he's a British assassin essentially. And so that's how they link up. And all of Batman's rogues, all of his rogues, like Catwoman, his main Catwoman, Penguin,
Joker.
Not Joker. Joker is something different. I'll explain what Joker is. But Penguin, Riddler, Two-Face, they're all his friends that he grew up with.
I mean, well, yeah, because without all the money, you growing up just like everybody else.
But spoilers. So if you're there's spoilers here. They end up becoming those people, and it's all because
so they still become those people no matter what.
Well, physically they end up becoming those people because Absolute Bane is something like you've never seen before. I'm telling you, you got to get into it because Absolute Bane is nightmare fuel.
Oh wow, okay.
So Batman is 6'9" in there. Absolute Bane juiced up is absolutely dwarfs him, and it's insane. So let me pull that up. But anyway, the concept is they're taking the typical Batman mythos and turning it and inverting a lot of aspects of it and making it look completely different, but still have some of the same notes. And it's still to answer some of the same criticisms of the character. Like I said, man, it's really kind of interesting thing. I would say that would be if there's a comic book that I would say that you should probably check out, I would go there. I would check out Absolute Batman just because of, I'm seeing if I can blow this picture up. All right, I'm on the wiki right now.
Absolute Batman, huh?
Yeah. So if there's a comic, like the Absolute series is taking a lot of the common DC characters and their main characters and putting them in a completely different environment, different world, different situation, and seeing what they come up with. It's really interesting stuff. And I'm always a fan of, if they're going to do an Elseworld story, at least make it interesting. All right, I'm gonna show you Absolute Bane real quick, and then we can get back onto the topic here.
Okay.
Just so that you get a sense of.
I also wanted to. I remember watching something. They were talking about Batman's identity, for instance, right? And it was saying that it's not that Joker and all of them don't know who Batman actually is, that he's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That they know who he is. And there was one bad guy that was like, I'm gonna tell everybody who you are. And it was those bad guys who shut him up.
Yeah.
And they explained to him that, like, we know that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Number one, we already know who he is. The reason why we don't say anything is because Bruce Wayne, whether they know it or not, protects Batman, or vice versa. Because at least there's a break.
Yeah.
In what he does. We know that he's going to be at night and Bruce Wayne's going to be during the daytime. We know that. And so, could you imagine Bruce Wayne or Batman being Batman 24/7?
Yeah.
You're going to have a problem.
What does it look like when he has no cover?
Right.
So do you see?
Right.
Okay. So are you looking here?
Oh wow, it dude's like 20 foot tall.
Yeah. And
oh wow. And so in this Batman, he's 6'9".
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so this Bane is
now, this isn't even, this dude's like 25, 30 foot tall.
Yeah. So normally he's and so in this world, Bane is essentially Batman in terms of his skills and abilities and stuff. And so now Batman has to figure out how
25 foot
how to defeat him. After Bane ran through and absolutely just mutilated all of his friends except Catwoman. Like he mutilated all of his friends and made them into the version of Two-Face and made them into the Riddler. What happened to Penguin is just, he did Penguin so filthy. He did Penguin absolutely filthy. Oswald, he did him completely and totally filthy. It was the filthiest thing I've ever seen. He did that. He violated that. He violated bro. And he absolutely violated him. And so Batman's got to figure out how to defeat this.
Oh my God, this is so funny.
But anyway, but the nuance is taking that mythos of, because everybody's always had the criticism, like, well, he's a rich white guy. Like he can absolutely just take his money and build foundations and stuff like that, and provide pathways and provide the resources that people need and pay for the overhaul of the Batman, the Gotham PD, and do all this stuff with his money. It's taking that and throwing that argument out the window and saying he doesn't have those resources. What's he got to do now in a world that is already predisposed to drift towards evil? Because that's how that universe was born.
Yeah, I see that.
So anyway, speaking my language, Spider-Man is the best hero. Spider-Man's my dude. I just did. I actually did on my other channel. I just did an entire segment about why Spider-Man is hurting my feelings right now. Why the writers of Spider-Man are hurting my feelings. So anyway, we're back to media literacy because you let me drift off onto comic books. I could talk about comic books all day long. So media literacy is the ability to interpret what you see. And we talked about it last week with No Child Left Behind and what happened with No Child Left Behind, where they removed a teacher's ability to teach context clues. Because you got to teach the test. In the high school districts, in order to secure funding for these teachers, in order for them to continue on, that the kids have to be able to pass these standardized tests. And
hey, could you put that in our notes?
What's up?
Yeah, put what you're talking about now. In our notes, because I can kind of see what you're doing.
Where did it go? I think I just deleted it.
No, we had Overton notes before.
Oh yeah, so I pulled those. Those are last week's. So
right, it was still on mine. Hold on, let me see.
Yeah, I updated.
Oh, okay. So this is all updated.
Yeah, I updated these.
Okay, sorry.
But and so we talked about No Child Left Behind and whatnot, and a lot of the soft skills that teachers had to teach kids, they ended up getting removed from their bag. And so they had to focus on teaching these kids just how to pass the test, and teaching somebody how to pass the test is not educating them. It's not educating them. It's not socializing them. It's not teaching them how to interact with people. It's not teaching them how to have conversations. It's not teaching them any kind of critical thinking skills or anything. I remember very clearly in high school having history teachers actually challenge and expecting us to challenge them in class about things in history, having open debates with teachers.
Hmm.
I had a creative writing class. I'll never forget this. I had a creative writing class where um, we it was during the OJ trial.
Hmm.
And so a lot of our conversations were about race and justice and law in America, in addition to creative writing. And so our creative writing took on that form of talking about race and justice in the 90s.
Hmm.
We had these open discussions in our classrooms. Fortunately, I think my kids are getting to have some of these conversations when I talk to them. When some of their teachers are still pushing forward some of these conversations. My daughter just had the entire conversation talking about her teacher pointed out the difference between chattel slavery and slavery in the rest of the world, and explaining
Hmm.
that to her class, and invited them to have the conversation. So we're seeing some of it, but one thing that No Child Left Behind was, it said a lot of that context clue stuff wasn't valuable to teach. And teach them a script, right? Teach them a script. Teach them how to regurgitate this script, as opposed to teaching them how to interpret the script and form their own conclusions. And one thing standardized tests don't allow for is variation. So you can't like, you have to give the exact answer. There is no variation within the answer. And if there is a variation where it could be one or the other, they have to take that whole test back and reevaluate the whole thing. So it's either A, B, C, or D. There is no, well, it's halfway between A and halfway between C. If they have one of those kind of questions, they got to throw the whole test out and start from scratch. Throw that whole question out. And so that's one of the things that I think we're missing in terms of what these kids are coming up with. If I could find it, I'll pull it up, where there's a teacher talking about how she cannot teach context anymore. She can't teach context clues. She'll get in trouble for teaching context clues because they're saying that's off of the approved, uh, um, what is it? The approved teacher schedule, the approved syllabus. Like, it's not part of the approved syllabus. And it's really sad, because what we're seeing is we're seeing we're almost like two generations deep of people who only perceive things at a surface level. They could only read context. They can't read subtext. They don't understand pretext. You start talking about metatextual stuff. They can't provide any metatextual analysis of anything. What they see is what it is, and there's no variation. And that creates an entire generation of people that are susceptible to being lied to and manipulated very easily. No open debate, right?
Sorry about that. I was talking to Jessica today about. She was telling me about how there is now again. I'm just telling you kind of what she was talking about,
Mhm.
and she was saying that she had heard or read somewhere that Trump is going to be giving people $2,000, all of it, and it was because of the like we've made so much money on the tariffs that we're going to be writing, giving you guys checks for all this because this is how much we've made.
Mhm.
And I said, because of critical thinking, I said, so basically what this man is saying, if this is even true, is that we're robbing you to pay you back on money that you already paid for.
Right.
So I said, it's not that the government is giving you anything, is that they're basically giving you money back on what you've already paid for.
Right.
So this is technically your money. This isn't money that like Doge, for instance, where they came up with all this. They're like, well, we've we've uncovered all this money. You ain't giving us any of that. So
Mhm.
technically, it wouldn't be 2,000. It'd be like $7,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? Or just in general for all the money that you guys have collected to give us back and this and the other. So it's not about this and the other. And I think that, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the book 1984 talked a lot about that. that, well, hey, this is $9.99,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then like a couple weeks later, we're gonna have a really amazing sale. And the sale is gonna be $9.99. It's gonna be the sale. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so amazing.
So you just described Black Friday, essentially what Black Friday is.
Basically, that's exactly what it is.
Well,
Yes, Joshua, bait and switch, which technically that shit's illegal.
well, it
Bait and switch is technically illegal. It's just easier to it's easy to manipulate it.
well. So here's the thing, because you mentioned that. What if you're a person that where you do have a higher, like a lot of the stuff that you buy is imported. Like
Mhm.
you're somebody who works in technology. I work with cameras all the time. Every camera that I have will be imported and be subject to a tariff. So
Yeah.
do I get more? Like,
Well, I mean, see, that's just it though.
and is
That's
there?
just it, though. I don't know because
Yeah,
you also pay for groceries.
right.
The groceries have gone up 3%. 3%. Not 1.5, what's like it was with Biden. It's gone up actually 3.1% in the last what 90 days?
Yeah. So do we get paid for the domestic?
3.1%.
Do we get paid for the domestic companies that raise their prices to stay competitive with the people that raise their prices because they're getting tariffed? Because that's how
That's all I'm
business
saying.
actually works.
That's all I'm saying.
And are we to believe that there's a big Uncle Scrooge vault full of tariff money that he goes swimming in every single day that he's just going to
Mm.
give to us? He's just going to open up the Uncle Scrooge vault, give them all the tariff money that we don't have that we've collected. Where is it going? There is no
Right.
tariff revenue.
No.
And so it's literally just a thing that he said. It's
Yeah.
a thing that he said. A lot of it is, and we mentioned this, I've said it on here. When you're dealing with the salesman's job is to win the interaction. He's winning the interaction
Mm-hmm.
because he knows that there's an entire group of people that will absolutely take him at his word. We're about to get $2,000 checks. No, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that $2,000 checks is going to change up stuff, you don't understand how quantitative easing works. You don't understand how monetary policy works. You don't understand how inflation works. Because when we get a $2,000 check, they expect the price of everything to go through the roof, and that $2,000 check will be swallowed. That'll be a grocery trip.
So I mean, right. So I mean, matter of fact, and and here's the thing. I look at it like this. If you look at the price of just like green beans,
Yeah.
a can of green beans used to be like shit, 50 cents,
Yeah.
20, 25, 50 cent, 49 cent. If you go look, Google a price, just a regular can of green beans. You're talking about almost $2.
Yeah. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up, please. Please.
So I see a big can at Sam's Club for $5.81. I used to buy those when I ran my group home. That's a lot more expensive.
It's a lot more expensive, correct?
Yep. We're talking about anywhere
A
between
can of green beans.
yeah,
And you talking about the large cans.
yeah, one of those big, huge industrial size
Right.
cans.
Exactly. Bring it down a little bit. How much is it?
So I could find some for $1.25, but that is, but it used to be under $1.
That's all I'm saying.
And so, and people don't
That's
understand the
all I'm
price,
saying.
and nothing ever comes down. Like inflation, like it's like the price of gas, right? Well, gas prices are cheaper than they were. Well, it is cheaper relatively, but it comes down, but it doesn't ever come down as far as it was at the time.
As before 9/11.
It never reaches the same. It never reaches the same floor. The floor just gets set higher every single time.
That's all it is.
But
that's all it is.
And so,
I mean, are you going to see gas prices at 150 again? Probably not.
Nope.
Are you going to see them at 99 cents again?
Listen,
probably not.
When gas hit 150, I remember very clearly gas hitting 150. I'm like, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. What's going on? What's going on with our money where gas is $1.50 now? Because I used to be at 99 cents. 99 cents, you fill up your whole tank for $10. And so I think, I look at it the McDonald's price index, right? Remember going to McDonald's, you get you a value meal for $2.99.
Man, you get the whole goddamn thing. Man, yes. You can feed a bunch of people for $10.
Now you go to McDonald's,
Sheesh.
there
Sheesh.
you could get like some fries, a thing of fries for maybe $2.99. And that's it. And so
They're not playing, bro.
and the problem with inflation is inflation goes up, wages stay stagnant. Like if wages matched inflation, there wouldn't be any single issue. But now we're doing this monetary policy where now we're out of the quantitative. I think we're in the quantitative easing where money machines are starting to turn over. Money machines are starting to print money. And so now we're about to be flush with cash. Inflation, there's no muzzle on what's inflation. We have artificial inflation because of all these tariffs. And so I remember very clearly, I'm an investor, right? When the pandemic set in, the stock market was literally doing things that nobody had ever seen it do before, ever in history. The analysts, the ones that the charts were absolutely confounded because there's stuff going on in those charts that they
Hey, stop. You're cutting in and out real bad.
I am.
Yes.
Is it my mic or is it the internet connection?
Okay, go ahead now.
So when the pandemic rolled in, a lot of those analysts, they were seeing, the ones, especially the ones that divine by the charts, because there are people that go by numbers and stuff, and there are people that just go by what the charts look like. The people that were going by what the chart, there was stuff that happening in the stock market that nobody had ever seen before.
Like what?
Ever. Like specific things that were normally indicators were no longer indicators. Things that where one stock goes up, another stock goes down, one industry comes alive, another industry goes away. That or people, it was completely out of sync all over the market. And so it became very difficult to determine what was going to be, what was going up, what was going down. Because normally you rotate your money around based on what's happening in the economy, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you rotate into a higher risk portfolio when some of the financials are good or the fundamentals are good. And other times you can back off of it and go back into your things that are more staples. The pandemic upset all of that. It threw all of that out of it. And so now we're heading into what are you guys discussing about? We're heading into a time where we got runaway inflation. We have these tariffs that are kind of artificial, but now everything's upset. Everything is at the whim of some kind of trade deal, X, Y, and Z. And so now we're heading into a time of economic uncertainty for most people. And the rules have been completely kind of thrown out about what indicators look for in the economy. It's weird. It's a weird time to be in this. It's a weird time to exist in this space, especially when you have a portfolio that you're managing. Now, I remember very clearly the big gold rush when the entire GameStop thing happened, and a lot of brand new people jumped into the market because they was trying to chase the dragon. They're trying to chase a rocket ship and jump into that GameStop thing. That was completely born of the stock market that didn't make any sense at the time.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're heading into. Like I said, I try not to be gloom and doom on these things, but it goes back to the ridiculous idea that there's this big pile of tariff money that just needs to be distributed to people. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, but at the same time, it also gets people talking. Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing, and I'm gonna tell you for our listeners, I'm gonna explain something to you. As you can, I don't know if you guys can see all those colors behind me. Those are all books. I love. I don't like reading. I love to read, and this is what I'll share with you. The greatest drug that our government, and not just government, or authoritarian officials in general, hope for more than anything else is your ability to hope. Mm-hmm. That you hope things get better. That you hope that Donald Trump is going to give you $1,000 or $2,000. That you hope that our elected officials will eventually turn around, figure this shit out on their own, and look down and say, you know what, man, we have destroyed our country so bad that we're gonna do something to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
And that is their biggest weapon. It's hope. Like they don't have to worry about what you're gonna do because they know what you're gonna do, which is nothing.
I
You'll,
remember.
you'll you'll bitch, you'll moan, you'll complain, you'll cry, you'll shoot up some shit,
Mhm.
but nothing's gonna get done. God,
I remember very clearly. I had a when I was running one of my homes, one of my group homes. I had a young man. Um, Parents were into, dad was into drugs and stuff like that. The age gap on mom and dad was just egregious. It was gross. This is when I was really young, and so I was like maybe 22 years old. This kid was 10
what,
years old.
what was the age gap?
So I'm about to tell you. So I was 22. This kid was 10 years old. Mom was maybe about a year older than me. Dad was in his 50s. This kid is 10 years old.
Hmm.
So you have a 10-year-old. Mom was maybe about 12 or 13.
Jesus.
Dad was in his 50s. So it's all right. The situation's already fucked up. Just saying that.
All right.
And so two separate stories, but they converge here.
Hmm.
One thing, when dad would come, the kid would start acting up.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons why the kid would act up is because when dad would come, he'd sit there and fill this kid with lies about how he's going to buy this new Cadillac and he's going to buy him a pair of Jordans and they're buying this big house and they're all going to move together and live together. Um, and they're all going to get back together and mom and dad are going to get back together. Mom had no interest in getting back with this old pervert. Like she had no interest in it, but he gassed this kid's head up and fill him full of lies. And that was the only thing that sustained that kid from descending further along into completely just writing his family off. Like he had to keep that in his mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't call his parents. Like he had to believe this in his mind. Otherwise, he would sever the relationship on his own. That's one thing. Then me and dad had it out because I had the audacity to make the kid clean his room before his parents came to visit, so they have a place to sit down. And so, dad, who had literally just came out of a stint at rehab and was actively found out after the fact it was relapsing again. He's gonna sit there and pull one of my coworkers aside. I said, I don't know if I trust Brian's decision making, and I turned. And so they brought it up to him and like, hey man, I'm not gonna have a crackhead question my decision making ability right now, man. It's like your kid is with us right now because you can't get shit together right now.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter what my age is. All I'm doing is giving your kid an expectation. I'm trying to teach your kid how to survive in society when he has to live with you and depend on you to provide his guidance.
Hmm.
And so, but anyway, long story short, this kid's hope is the only thing that kept him in contact with his family. It was
Hmm.
opiate for this young man
Yeah.
because dad would gas him up and lie to him, and we would have to almost deprogram, talk him off the cliff because he's like, I'll just run away. My dad's going to pick me up in his Cadillac. Your dad doesn't have a Cadillac. He doesn't even have a house right now, bro. Like he doesn't have the things that you need right now. He's not being honest with you. And we finally had to pull dad aside and say, you have to stop doing this to him
Hmm.
because it's not helping him. The only thing it's doing is it allows him to maintain contact with you. But you have to find other ways to encourage him to maintain that contact with you
Hmm.
instead of having him dwell in this world of lies.
Right. So basically, the child was believing. I mean, but again, it's his kid and it's his
Yeah.
parents. So he's going to believe those delusions of grandeur,
Yeah.
although they're not necessary. And sometimes I think thank you, Joshua, that false hope.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like, man, like I hope I get this. I hope that this is just one of those things for me and that such and such is gonna deliver us from this type of evil type of stuff or whatever. And but in your heart of hearts, that's
Mm-hmm.
not coming. And one of the things that I told a friend of mine that we were talking about, I think we talked about this before,
Mm-hmm.
is that the scariest thing that I have of this whole where we are today is that you need to understand that all the shit that you're doing right now today in 2028 ain't gonna save you.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that man ain't gonna be here forever.
The same
And
mechanisms of
the
survival ain't
same
gonna work.
mechanism ain't gonna work for you. So you can call me the N-word, you can do this, you can do that. But I just want you to remember that man ain't gonna be in that office forever.
Right.
And all that shit that you said is gonna come back and haunt you like a vengeance.
It's gonna come due.
And I mean, and seriously, I remember when I was a kid growing up off of Redmond and Omaha, this young dude was staying over in the projects. And over in the projects, they learned how to fight all the time. They was always quiet. So I had this older homeboy that would be around us off of Redmond. And he told me one day, he's like, bro, one day I ain't gonna be around here to stick up for you. So either A, you learn how to fight, or B, keep your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm not here, he ain't gonna show you no mercy. Whereas I am here now, and if you cool with him now, when I'm gone, he gonna be cool with you then too.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remembered that, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't play with somebody like that. If you know you're not about that life, stop playing around.
Right.
Because eventually they're not gonna be around, and that door gonna shut, and it's gonna be you and him.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you're not walking out.
And I like that.
I'm just saying. And again, that's what I learned. So again, there's no threats. I'm warning some of y'all, because some of y'all just be like, man, white power, this and the other, motherfucker. We got to make it here together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, motherfucker, like, listen, like, it's however you might feel about us, y'all still gonna eat Chinese food. You still gonna eat Mexican food. You still gonna eat that nasty ass McDonald's and Burger King. You still gonna you still gotta get your wood from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get your shoes made from somewhere. We all have to work together. All of us. So for y'all to sit there and let that orange dude pump your fucking heads up, I'm promising you, stop. Because once he's out of that office, I'm not gonna lie to you. For Democrats, for socialists, I'm gonna teach you how to win the next election. I want you to repeat these words after me. As soon as I'm president, I'm sending you fuckers to prison. Say that now. Just keep saying it. Keep saying it. Whatever you did during these 4 years, I'm sending you to jail as soon as I hit office. I promise you. I guarantee you, people gonna shut the fuck up.
Well, here's
how much you want to bet? Because if you think about the January 6th, the insurrection type thing, like, dude, let that have been anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody? What?
Okay, I went to the Million Man March, right?
What?
When I was like 15, 16 years old, I was at the Million Man March, and walking up to the Capitol. One thing you saw when I was coming up from the train, because me and my cousins took the train down there from Baltimore. You're walking up, on either side of the road, there are tanks, like tanks. We had guns pointed at us and everything as we're walking on our way up.
Really?
Yeah, they had deployed every mechanism of local defense, National Guard, whoever else. They had them out there, ready to absolutely just gun us all down. So the mechanism. So when I looked at that January 6th thing and knew all them people was in DC, I'm like, oh, they're gonna get. And part of me was cynical, like that they're not gonna give them the same treatment. But I'm like, I know they have the capacity to have all of that stuff out there because they had it out there like that. All of that stuff was out there. All those tanks, all that stuff was just sitting on the side. And so I remember very clearly. Went down.
Really?
Went down.
I wonder why we never heard about that.
Went down to one of the vendors to get a plate because they had a guy there who had catfish and ribs, and he was absolutely cleaning up that day.
Oh my
um,
goodness.
went down to get it. Went down to get
He probably still spending money from that day.
went down to get some catfish and some jacket fries, and went down there midday. All these folks that were out there on these tanks and everything, they were bored as hell. They're laying. You could see them sleeping on the tank, sleeping on it, laying all this stuff. And so I know that when January 6th happened, they had the capacity to have the full military mobilized just like that. They chose not to.
It chose not to.
But I want to go back to one thing you mentioned about hope, and then something else you mentioned about reprisal. So with hope can be a two-way street, right? Like you can give people hope and it allows them to create amazing things and change their lives in ways that you couldn't even imagine, couldn't even fathom. Hope will allow you to change your life. It will also, hope will have you giving your life away in chunks. If you have false hope, if your hope is being weaponized against you, they can remove all kinds of stuff from your life.
Yeah.
But if you're utilizing hope as your weapon to attack the world and create the world that you want to have, it can be a very powerful thing. It's a double-edged sword with hope.
Indeed.
And so the other thing is, we're talking about people hiding behind, since they're in political power now, they're hiding behind that. Remember we talked about a couple weeks ago, I remember Patrice O'Neill talked about the promise of middle management. Some people will endure any amount of mistreatment as long as they get to be the gatekeepers to mistreat others.
Right.
And we're seeing that a lot of those people are popping their heads up. They're popping their heads up right now. A lot of these ICE agents, when you run the background check, some of these guys wouldn't even made a local police force. They couldn't even be hired as security guards. But now they'll get $50,000. They'll do whatever. They'll follow whatever marching orders. Mysteriously, all these militia groups that were really super active, ICE rollers are hiring. You don't see them. What happened to them people? What happened to those gentlemen? Those Proud Boys and all that? They didn't just go away. All these militia groups didn't just disappear. They didn't just stop acting one day. They just got a new job. And so, and they will, a lot of those guys who are the rank and file, they're not from money. They're not from resources or anything else. It's the promise of being able to be better than somebody else. And that's their entire philosophy. It's about competition. Do I get to position myself to be in a position I believe superior to these people that I think are inferior?
Right.
And it's a crazy position to be in. Because I look at it like, well, you're still getting, you are still getting absolutely shat on by this person up here, but you're fine with it as long as you get to be cruel to the people that you perceive to be underneath you. Crazy work, bro. Crazy work. But like I said, man, we're starting to see some of the edges because they're actually exposing some of these people that are in these, ICE things and stuff like that. These guys, their records wouldn't allow them to be even hired as security guards in some places.
So how are we finding out who these individuals are for us to even know their backgrounds?
If you see their, like, sometimes they will get their faces. And so people will do some internet detective work and say, oh, this is who this person is. And so and that's why the mask thing is so important to them, because they don't really want to know. They don't want people to know who they are. And there's a reason for it. They've showed it where, it was one of the Proud Boys. I forgot what his name was, but they showed his entire sleeve of tattoos. And then they found an ICE agent who had the exact same sleeve of tattoos.
Oh, wow.
Where'd he come from? Why would you put this man in an authority position where he has authority over human beings?
Especially individuals that he know that he has a problem with.
Right. And they're
even in jail, they won't let you go to if you are a white supremacist, and you are in a jail, especially around here, they won't put you in a cell with other people that are known,
Mm-hmm.
that are your known enemies.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing that, like, at all, or whatever. Like, if you go to jail, though, are you a part of any gang? Are you this? Are you that? Do you have any enemies? Because we can't put you in the same tank as them, because we have to make sure that you're safe.
Peep this, and I'm gonna throw this in here. So we were just talking about it recently. This is a news heading I just saw and I had to look into it a little bit more. FBI has issued a bulletin urging immigration and customs enforcement agents to adequately identify themselves during field operations. So even the FBI, who is beholden to you know who, is asking ICE to identify themselves, because there's instances of people ordering that ICE shit, ordering those costumes off of Amazon and stuff, and robbing and sexually assaulting people, utilizing that.
I mean, dude, what did you think was gonna happen?
So when you weaponize the most vicious and inept group of people in society and put them in a position of power, what do you think happens? And that's what I'm saying. And so that's the promise of middle management, bro. They're in that position because it's great. Like, they don't mind that they're getting screwed over as long as they get a paycheck and they get to harm other people. They are happy. It's a really weird way to operate in this world.
Yeah,
Costumes.
go get your costumes. Go to Spirit. What is that? That Spirit Halloween place. Get you some. Go get you a costume and go to work.
Right. So it's crazy. It's crazy work. Let's jump back. Let me jump back here because I'm all off of it. So, we talked about what media literacy actually means, and part of media literacy is being able to interpret the news, like being able to interpret the subtext of what's allowed to be said on the news and what's not allowed to be said. Understanding that the reason why when you're watching Good Morning America, the reason why you always see advertisements for Disney movies, or they always have stars of Disney movies on these shows, on Jimmy Kimmel, on Good Morning America, is because ABC is owned by Disney, and so they're basically promoting their own product. The reason why all these morning talk shows have little segments where they have items that they're showing off and saying you can order this by scanning this QR code, right?
Yeah,
because they're getting a kickback. They get a kickback from these things. And so media literacy allows you to understand this, allows you to weigh out different things in your mind and saying, okay, this is true to a degree. This is true to the degree that this news agency can report it. Does that make sense? This thing isn't a lie. It's only true to the degree which they are allowed to report it based on whoever the CEO of this company is. That's why they always have to say, our parent organization. Understand, our parent organization has stakes in this or that. Okay. Because the parent organization absolutely does shape what they can and what they can't report. That's why there's no investigative journalism much anymore. Remember how that used to be a thing?
Yeah, at least they said it was a thing.
Remember, you used to have an investigative journalist that was out there in the field breaking stories like Watergate and doing all that other stuff?
Yeah.
They don't exist. They don't exist anymore in a lot of these major agencies. These reporters would love it. Some of these reporters went to school to do this kind of work.
And then to go to get that degree and understand that ain't nobody gonna pay you to do any of that shit.
You got to build your own platform. There's a young lady I follow right now. She was an investigative journalist. I think it had to be NBC or CNN, and she eventually had to go launch her own platform and fund her own investigations.
Yeah,
because she had to go. The big investigation when I saw that made me aware of was she was talking about what's going on in Mexico with the water down there and how these resorts are absolutely destroying these local communities' watersheds in order to pump it all into the resort and to fill their pools. And showers and stuff like that. Oh my
God, seriously.
Meanwhile, the local residents are literally having to pay, $400 to get a big gallon of water a big thing of water that's supposed to last them for a month.
Oh, wow.
And so she could not do that kind of news story because I think it had to be Hilton or one of those people that owned one of those resorts was also a big financier of one of the news agencies that she was with.
Okay.
And so she couldn't do that because they were threatening to pull advertising off of it. Media literacy gives you the frame of reference to look at a news story, look how far the person on the screen can take it, and then go and take it a little bit further, extrapolate and see, okay, what else, what isn't being said, what is not allowed being said. Because a lot of journalists, they don't get in that. Some of them actually do. Some of them are in the pundit class and they just want to be talking heads and their job is to obfuscate and their job is to be propagandists, right? Others, their hands are tied about what they can actually say without getting fired. And so they have to weigh out, do I work? Do I have a job? Or do I say the truth? That's why we're seeing all these media people starting their own podcasts and stuff. Becoming their own outlets. That's all I'm saying. Media literacy gives you the frame of reference to understand how that works.
Okay.
What is this? Cheap viewer stream boo. I don't know how we get rid of the spam that pops up in our comments, bro. Like we got good.
I ignored it.
We got good people jumping in. Joshua, man, you've been riding with us, man. I appreciate you.
Indeed.
We're looking for see if our friend who likes to jump in here.
Liberty Twitch.
Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna jump up in here. We'll see. Fight back with words. Yeah. So when we start talking about this, people like I said, when people say media literacy or you know what I mean, they take it as an insult, right? That just means that you may not have the frame of reference to interpret the media that you have. That's not a bad thing. That just means you need to expand your frame a little bit. You need to read a little bit more. Yeah. You need to actually learn how some stuff works. Okay. So media literacy is the ability to interpret what you see and not just consume it. I'm going through my points here. It's knowing the difference between fact and opinion. I actually commented on something on Facebook that I saw where it was, I don't know if it was Newsweek. It was USA Today, where somebody posts an article from USA Today, and you could clearly see in the metadata that it says opinion. But when they posted it, they didn't frame it as an opinion. So I called it out. Oh, you're looking too far into it. No, I'm pointing out the fact that this is an opinion piece that you're utilizing to create a factual basis on it, and that's not what this is.
Yeah, you actually did that last week.
That was last week.
That was last week. Was that the last week thing?
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah, you were like, no, dude, you were like, show me the basis, show me the
actual report.
Show me the actual report. And like, you can't, because this is not an actual report. It's just an opinion piece. Mm-hmm. And again, I didn't know about that myself. So,
well, and it's the difference, editorial pieces. I've written editorials back in the days when I was a little bit more active. I've written editorials, and they were 100% biased because that's what an editorial is supposed to be. When if you're expecting a human being to be unbiased, that means that you're not human beings aren't unbiased. We do have our biases.
Mm-hmm.
I've said news reporters aren't supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be biased towards the truth. That's just what it is. All right. So, Fearless, in terms of reading, in terms of how does reading help you with your media literacy and your ability to interpret messages and signals and read beyond the context and look at other things?
Look at. It allows me to look at things critically.
Okay.
Right. And real fast, before we jump into this, I want to show our viewers. Hold on one sec.
Okay.
I want to give you guys real fast. When I say I look at things critically, I want to, because you know me, I love words. Hold on one second. God damn. Right, there we go. I want you to see. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So hold on, let me move my camera. So expressing adverse or disapproving comments or judgments. Okay. He was critical of many U.S. welfare
Hmm.
programs. The second one is expressing or involving in analysis of metrics and faults of work of literature, music, and arts. Right. So she never won the critical acclaim that she sought. Okay, so what are we talking about? So if we look at some of the words going into that is censorious, condemnatory, condemning, reproving, depreciatory, so disparaging, reprove. So when I'm looking at things critically, I'm I'm not able to look at it as just face value. I automatically start looking at things like I become overcritical of what I'm listening to.
Hmm.
So here's another word: picky, um, hair splitting, gripping, bitching, belly aching, persnickety. That's one of my favorite words. I like the word persnickety.
Hmm.
Placing too many emphasis on trivial or minor details, fussy. Right? She's very persnickety about her food. So that I am. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm very persnickety when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And but that's the reason why I am. And that's what reading does for me. It allows me to see it allows me to sift through bullshit. So if I'm reading, okay, so I just read, oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. This is I just read this book right here. Hold on, where's my camera? This is called um How I Know White People Are Crazy and Other Stories. And it's notes from a frustrated black psychologist. And he's not talking about like white people as a whole, but he was talking about being a getting his PhD to practice to become a psychologist. And he has his own stuff on I think TikTok and Instagram. But it was actually really cool to kind of go down the rabbit hole of what it takes to actually become a healthcare professional and a doctor at that.
Hmm.
So this is one thing, right? So again, if I'm talking to people about getting their PhDs, this and the other, I have something to go back to. Um, our boy or our person talked about this book here, Breakneck.
Hmm.
How China's quest for engineer, excuse me, how China's quest to engineer the future. Um, this is how they basically went from like having nothing to building one of the uh, biggest what, bro? You mean biggest infrastructures
Infrastructure, right?
financially and everything else. They have, and within the last like 30 years, which is unprecedented. I'm just throwing that out there. Um, this book right here, why we didn't riot. A black man in Trump land, and it was a it was a pretty good book. One of the things that he talked about was when people say like, "Well, I just voted for Trump because I believe in his this that, and the other," right? And it's kind of like, oh, okay. And so if you have a bunch of people who vote for somebody like uh who was he? They used to call him a really mean person back in the day. Who was that? Minister Farrakhan.
Yeah, Farrakhan.
If
Yeah.
Minister Farrakhan became the president of the United States, whatever, because we voted for him, what does that say about us pertaining to how we feel about you? Like, you see what I'm saying? So everything is always in context. You know what I'm saying? When they're doing it, but if we're doing that same thing or asking questions, we're told, "Dude, you think too much into this. You you guys make everything about race."
Right.
Fortunately, because everything is about race, right? And then something like this book right here. I just finished on the 20th. Took me a day to read this big ass hunk of stuff. But white burgers, black cash, fast food from black exclusion to black exploitation. So again, why do I read this stuff? And here's the thing. And now, am I saying that I am impervious to being shit on? Am I saying that I am impervious to seeing to not seeing what's right in front of my face? No,
Yeah.
not what's. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that it gives me a better understanding of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at it. And so being critical thinking in general allows you to take that persnickety stuff and placing too much emphasis on trivial or minor details. So I'm able to ask questions that you're not probably going to ask because you're looking at the whole thing where I might be looking at it piece by piece because I understand that all the puzzle pieces fit. So you're just looking at the whole thing as a whole where I could pick apart everything that you're talking about and say that, well, we're all getting $2,000. You're talking about what 2,000? You talking about the shit that you already taken from me? You talking about that?
Right.
You talking about the fact that you charge 20 to 40% on tariffs on everything coming in? You telling me that that a can of green beans literally needs to cost $5? That's what you're saying?
Right.
Like you're telling. I mean, so again, reading all these books, it gives me it allows me to think critically about what I'm seeing or what I'm reading or what I'm listening to. And because people don't read anything, they're not gonna think that shit. Even if you looked at here, let's use another word. Right. So again, so you have people today who've taken this work. You see what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
Woke, for instance, right? Woke says it originated in African American vernacular English to mean being a part, or excuse me, being alert to racial prejudices and discrimination. That's all it meant. To mean being aware that somebody's fucking with you. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Now listen to this. Over time, its meaning expanded to include awareness of social injustice more broadly in general. More recently, the term has become politically charged, with some using it as a term of pride for being socially conscious, and others using it as pejorative or criticize or to dismiss progressive ideas and policies. So again, so all we're saying is, hey, this isn't cool. And then you're like, well, what's not being cool about that? It's not cool that you're putting race into everything. I'm not saying it's racist. I'm just saying this isn't cool. From a social justice standpoint, this isn't cool.
Right.
So if we're talking about discrimination, if we're talking about prejudice, if we're talking about killing a person in broad fucking daylight, do I need to be asleep to see that? No, you need to be woke to look at what's happening. That's all it is. So somebody else took a word that had nothing to do with you people, nothing to do with nothing politically. You took it and you made it something that didn't have shit to do with nothing. So now if you use it, it's all they're well, what does it say? Go woke, go broke.
Yeah.
So you're trying to tell me that not to say anything about discrimination, not to say anything about prejudice. Okay, cool. I I ain't got a problem with that. I mean, just like when they were talking about just like what was the other thing they were talking about? Let's stop talking about or what was the one? Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Why y'all keep bringing up Juneteenth? Cool. Why do we keep talking about 4th of July? I don't celebrate my shit. You don't celebrate your shit. Cool. I'm cool with that. Like that, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But the problem is that where one person takes, and I mean, think about it. During what was that, 1776? Black people weren't free.
Right.
And said we still celebrated right along with you. And y'all ain't got a problem with that. And all we're saying is that, hey, this is a day that we celebrate that we're free. We didn't ask you to make it a federal holiday. We
No,
were doing that shit way before y'all.
yeah, it's been there's been a Juneteenth parade in
And
Omaha for
almost since I was a kid.
yeah, for as long as I can remember.
So
We were celebrating it without any kind of oversight from the
yeah,
government,
we've
without
been
anything.
doing that. We've been, and here's the thing: white people are down there celebrating it with us.
Right.
Did
So
nobody look at y'all weird? And no, motherfucker. Here's the thing, and I think that the biggest problem is this: America's white America looks at white American celebrations or what's the word I'm looking for?
holidays.
Holidays as your own, and then black people have their own holiday. No, motherfucker. If it happened on these lands, it's American, bitch.
Well, I
Like
think
off top. And get one more thing.
yeah.
So it's so easy how motherfuckers will sit and try to tell you or somebody else that, like, they'll be like, we don't want you on our land, we don't want you in our country no more. We want you out. Okay, again, I understand that. Again, maybe this is the philosopher in me, but I have a question to ask you. If the Native Americans asked you to get the fuck off their property, would you keep that same energy?
Absolutely not. You know that. We know that.
I mean,
We all know
right.
that.
So all I'm saying is shut the fuck up. We're here. Let's make the fucking best of it. But
Well,
I'm saying you can't say that this is my land, you bitch, because it's fucking not.
well, it's the
Fuck
idea.
out of here.
It's the idea of one, the idea, and we can have another show about this, is the normalization of whiteness, where that's considered the baseline for everybody and how everybody should frame. And
That's the book that I was just.
yeah,
What was that book that I was just reading?
yeah,
The uh um um. That's what Homeboy was talking about. And this,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? He was basically saying, no, let me just move my camera. Sorry. One of the things that Homeboy was talking about was when we talk about mental health, a lot of what they call like mental health and this and the other, they're like who determines mental health and whatnot. And he was saying that because it's ran by Caucasians in general, that is kind of like a thing of they're the ones who determine what's, you know what I'm saying, like what needs to happen. They create and produce the norm of what mental health is. So hold on one second.
Yeah.
So if you, and he brought up other sociologists such as Stanley Milgram, who did the obedience to authority with the white coat,
Mm-hmm.
this and the other. It says that most of us would just follow orders in general, right? But a lot of those people were Caucasians,
Right.
in general. So he was like, what would happen if you tried that same thing with black people or black Africans? What would happen if you tried that with Native Americans? What would happen if you tried that with Hispanics? So again, everything is based on like what a white person normalizes as mental health awareness, like in general, right? So then, even if you look at Philip Zimbardo, the the Stanford prison experiment, right? I loved his whole entire book, but again, the prisoners and the guards were all Caucasians,
Yep.
like all of them were. You know what I'm saying? So, what happens if you'd have tried that with other people in general?
So
other people from different cultures in general. So a lot of what they're doing is based on the culture, white Western culture type stuff.
yeah, and that's one of the things. So it's interesting. I fell across a thread of black psychiatrist or psychologist actually, and she was talking about how a lot of times things that manifest specifically um, that would be normally read as anxiety or ADHD or even autism that is clearly coded for the white population. A lot of times, since there is no diagnostic, there has been no diagnostic work done with non-white populations for a lot of this stuff. It gets misread as other things as a
Yeah,
size. So a lot of mental health stuff doesn't. A lot of mental health diagnoses pass us by
right.
because we were never we were never in that original cohort, the original group that they used to determine the diagnostic criteria for a lot of these mental illnesses.
Which go ahead, go ahead.
And so and that's what happens. And so it leads into these imbalances in mental health. I used to say this all the time. There's a lot of black men and black women that are sitting in prisons and penitentiaries with untreated ADHD, um, autism diagnosis that never got
No, neurodivergent.
neurodivergence, all kinds of other stuff that never ever got addressed or taken care of. And and it's just assumed, well, they're just oppositional defiant. That used to be the thing that used to be the label that they would slap black kids with for stuff with ADHD is, well, they're oppositional defiant. Well, this other kid, his white kid, he has ADHD or he has autism, but the black kid showing some of the same behaviors, well, he's oppositional defiant, and there's no treatment for oppositional defiant. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, no,
so
there is treatment for it. It's called prison.
yeah, and that's the way they would frame it. And so yeah, we were never included in a lot of this diagnostic criteria, and it even goes into, my mom was before she passed 2016, she was in epidemiology and working on the forefront of breast cancer research. I mean, she has an entire picture where she's with Bill Clinton smiling and stuff, waving at the camera for a lot of stuff that the research that the organization stuff that she had created. And there's a huge gap. She would tell you there's a huge gap when it came to diagnostic criteria for black folks with cancer treatment, because all the stuff was centered around white
White
people. It's not
people, yeah.
saying that there's not physiological differences, but there's economic differences, there's environmental differences, there's all kinds of other things.
Cultural, but then there's other
Yeah,
differences, even with the blood. So
even blood mel even blood melanin content, some genetic features that are persistent in specific groups depending on where you're from. And so a lot of black people weren't in these cohorts to diagnose some of these things, and so we never get diagnosed. And so that's one of the things that falls in there. Interestingly enough, so while you're talking, I was kind of going back because we're talking about media and stuff like that. One of the books that put me onto this, and I was trying to find it so I could put it up on screen, but I can't find it. I'm going to actually go through my bookshelf and see if I still have it.
Mhm.
It was a book published by Media Matters. And for a while, every year, they would break down the biggest stories of the year and then critically fact check them and assess them for bias. And it was like a compilation of the main stories. And then they would tell pieces of the stories that didn't get told and stuff like that. And I was wondering if they still did it. If I could find the book, I'll put it up on screen. But that's where, coming out of journalism,
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at them.
coming out of school
Which
as a
one?
coming out of school as a journalism major, that was one of the things that's really informative and shaped my opinion as a young adult about how the news works. Um, and then you get, books like that are they're essentially works of fiction um, that ended up becoming some people's entire framework of how they viewed the world. Like, was it Tales of Economic Hitman, where
That
that
was
was
sad.
that was functionally a work of fiction, creative fiction, but it was fiction, political fiction, but it was fiction. And then people built entire narratives around it and created, like, was it documentaries called the Zeitgeist, and people watch that, and that ended up becoming their entire political worldview. And to
Mm.
be critical of some of the things in there is not to dismiss everything, because some of the stuff is actually rooted in truth. But you still have to have a critical eye for it and see, okay, some of this is bullshit.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of it was just kind of out there. I found that the religious stuff or whatever was kind of like
It was
uh,
conspiracy brain stuff.
like like very much so. But the one thing that I did like because there was three of those movies that I
Mm-hmm.
remember, but the last one was the one that I think I always resonated with the most. Well, his name is John Jock something or whatever, and he was talking about that that utopian, not even that utopian type of thing that you don't have to. I have to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think his name was Jock something. Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna find it.
Okay. Well, man, so I'm jumping back into it. I'm jumping back into the thing. So, um, one of the differences is, so when we talk about media literacy, one of the things that people don't really understand is the literalism. Like people taking, like when you see an article from the Onion that gets posted that is clearly a joke, people taking it seriously. Like that's the lack of media literacy. That's the lack of being able to determine, okay, this is so insane that this can't be true. And then looking and saying, oh, this comes from the Onion, so it's a satirical article. I see it in sports. Like I'm in different sports groups where somebody will literally post an article that is from a satire, sports satire site that's supposed to be comedy, and they almost get rage baited by it. Can you believe this is happening? Well, no, I can't, because it's from a satirical website. It's not supposed to be real. You're not supposed to be getting mad about this. There's supposed to be there's supposed to be an understanding that this thing is not real. This is fake.
Mhm.
Um, but people don't, it's weird. Like and we have these arguments, like in the group specifically that I'm in, it happens pretty frequently. I see it on Twitter too. This is not a real sports story. It's from a site that is known for making satirical sports stories, but people are reacting to the thing like it's like it's real, like it's a real thing. um and so not being able to understand the difference between satire and symbolism and literalism, it's like a lot of people, and people that are our age, like you're old enough to know better. But I think it's we've outsourced our critical thinking to other people so often. And it does come with the fact that people don't read anymore. But it also comes from the fact that people don't think as much anymore.
Mhm.
Um, let me see. It's media literacy is the ability to recognize the creator's intent, and people will fight you. Like I've had people, like when I think it was George Lucas, and I'm a double check this, so I'm not just sitting up here spewing bullshit. But I remember George Lucas, I think he was the one that mentioned Star Wars was the allegory for the Vietnam War, and people tried to argue with him about it, about what
Right.
his own movie was about.
Wow.
That's not what it's about. Well, I mean, but he's the creator of it. He said what it's about.
Hmm.
Well, that's not what it is. Really? Let's see. Star Wars Vietnam. Uh this Vietnam War heavily influenced Star Wars, with George Lucas stating the Rebel Alliance was inspired via the Viet Cong fighting a larger power. He said this. He actually said that, and people would argue with him like, "No, your movie is not about that." That's a lack of media literacy. The man told you what it was about. You're like, "Nope, that's not what that's not what it is. That's not what you meant when you wrote that."
Right.
Um, and I think what happens, especially on these news things, and I know I'm more into sports than Fearless is, regardless. But one of the things we're starting to see is, you remember Crossfire on CNN? Remember Crossfire,
Yes.
where they have the two talking heads yelling at each other?
Yes.
We're seeing the crossfireification of all media, where you always have to have two people yelling at each other about a thing. We see it in sports all the time. Like people are just taking the opposite side just so that they can have good television. CNN has built an entire, like, only clips I've received from CNN is pundits yelling at each other. I don't see news from them. I just see clips of people from opposite parties screaming at each other for being on opposite sides of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's cooking our media literacy. Like, I feel like our media literacy is getting cooked behind this actively, because when you have two people on there screaming opinions at one another, what gets lost in translation is the fact that these people are screaming opinions at each other. They're screaming opinions
Right.
at each other, and there's no real-time fact check on it. And I've actually seen them fact check one another in real time. Like, I've seen the dude, I can't say his name is Scott something or other. I saw him get fact checked in real time, and he fell silent for 45 seconds.
Who was this?
One of the dudes on CNN. They brought on a guest, and she pulled up something that he said in 2016 before the election, and he was literally saying the opposite thing. And she said, "You even said this in 2016." He fell silent for 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Because he got fact checked in real time. He didn't even know how to respond to it. So what happens is we're seeing people berating each other with opinions, but not berating each other with facts.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up becoming news as entertainment.
Right. So this is, I don't know if you can see. Can you see this?
I can see the Venus Project.
All right, here, I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger. Hold on, nope, let me take that back off. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, so basically, this is the Venus Project that was created by Jacques Fresco, in collaboration with Roxanne Meadows in Venus, Florida, and it was basically set up so it's a nonprofit organization aimed at redesigning culture, economic infrastructure, and the way humans relate to resources, technology, and each other. So one of the things that he did was, why make the shift? And there's a couple things I'm going to show you here.
Mm-hmm.
It says that the Venus Project argues that many of today's social and environmental problems stem from the money market system, which is based on scarcity, competition, profit, and inequality. Sorry, my brain just went blank. Basically, where we're not equal.
Yep.
So, in their view, automation and technology have grown in such a way that human labor roles becomes obsolete, yet purchasing powers remain tied to jobs, leading to instability. And so here's the thing, real fast. One of the things that I want to read real fast in my boy's book. Hopefully, if he ever meets me, he won't try to sue me for this.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, whiteness mindset. So listen, y'all. When we talk about when I say white or white people, we're talking about a mindset, not necessarily people, because there's people that are white that don't ride with this shit at all. But unfortunately, it ties back in. If Africa ran everything, and we were the majority, it would still be a blackness mindset, which
Right.
I would still fall up under that. Although I may not necessarily do any of that stuff, I might still fall up under it. So,
can I throw a frame in here real quick before you get
please.
started?
Yeah.
So when we talk about whiteness, we're talking about the concept of whiteness as, for a long time in America, there was a specific hierarchy, right? Like, for a long time, Italians weren't considered white.
Yeah.
Right. Irish people weren't considered white for a time being. You know, as you go on Eastern Europeans, for a long time, they weren't necessarily considered white in this country. And so whiteness expanded to embrace those specific subgroups to say, okay, you're allowed in the party, but the rest of y'all ain't. So we over here are white and the rest of y'all aren't. So when we talk about the concept of whiteness, that's what we're talking about. Where
Correct.
it was a characteristic ascribed to people to saying, you get this set of you get to enjoy this set of privileges, and you don't have to live in segregation or anything because you fall under the auspices of white, but y'all don't meet that criteria. So off to the reservations, off to the hoods, off to the off to these specific parts of town and stuff like that, off to Chinatown, off to wherever, because you don't meet the criteria of what we consider white. So when we talk about whiteness, that's what Fearless is saying, is whiteness as a concept in America.
Or like Doctor, what's my boy who kind of fell off?
Umar.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, as Umar says, which his information still hit. It's people who want power, opportunity, and resource.
Yeah.
Right. That's basically what it is. But as I just read to you in here, the Venus Project argues that many of today's social and environmental problems stem from the money market system, which is based in scarcity, competition, profit, and what is that? Inequality. Sorry.
Inequality. Yeah.
Inequality. So I'm going to read to you this particular mindset. So number A is possession of a mindset that is primarily oriented to at least one of the following three assumptions about natural life. Number one, limitation or scarcity. Number two, fragmentation, which means to block things off. And then number three is annihilation. All right, B. Evidence of this mindset can be seen in a person's behavior that demonstrates prioritizing at least one of the following values: individualism, competition, and materialism. Now, again, that's a value that you have.
Right.
So, again, individualism. And I was just talking to a friend of mine last week about this because we were going back and forth about paying for college. And she's like, well, I'm not paying for somebody else's stuff. And I'm like, we're already paying for everybody else's stuff.
Right.
So to me, if I know that in order to make things better, we all put into a pot, I'm more than willing to do that. I ain't got no problem making sure that your kid becomes a PhD student for free because I'm already paying for it, just like you're paying for my education, right? All right, so I'm gonna go on. C, there's two more, C and D. C is due to the mindset of a person's benefits, how they benefit from at least one of the three following: purpose, power, and protection. Let me say that again. Due to this mindset, a person benefits from at least one of the following: purpose. God says that I'm supposed to be here. Yeah, I'm a Christian. This is what Christian values mean. Power, I'm supposed to be ruling over all y'all. Protection, I'm protected by the law that states that I have this. And D, a person experiences at least one of the following symptoms due to an internalization of an assumption of values, benefits of whiteness. Here we go. Number one, distortion and psychopathic thoughts. Number two, negative emotion or lack thereof emotion.
Yep.
Remember what Charlie Kirk said? Why we need empathy? We don't need empathy for people, right? And number three, obsessive behaviors and or inaction of the face of wrongdoing. Let me say that again because I butchered that one. Oppressive behavior and / or inaction of the face of wrongdoing. That means I don't give a fuck about what I do to you. I can do whatever I want to you. And well, purpose says that I can do that. Power says that I am going to do that. And protection says that the law says I can do that. So this is what we talk about, that whiteness mindset, like in general. And so to Mr. Lassiter, I appreciate your book. Your book was amazing, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But that, and so this guy here, Jack, what's his name again? Uh, Jacques Fresco, and said that he saw this, and he was like 80, 90 years old when he died. And I think 2017 maybe. And he was talking about some of these principles then. And he was just saying, though, that we have to live here together.
Right.
There is enough resources, there's enough power, there's enough opportunities, there's enough resources and experience for us to go around. But again, like you said, middle management.
Right. And that's what it boils down to. And
Middle management.
And it's the false scarcity, because it's not, because the problem is it's not even real scarcity. It's like an artificial level of scarcity, just to justify the existence of the ongoing existence of that system.
Right.
The scarcity don't be real. There's plenty to go around, but we're just saying that there's not enough.
Yeah, and that's all we're kind of saying is that Jock was saying that there's more than enough.
Right.
Like, listen, we have 22,000 kids die every single day because of dysentery by itself. That's a lack of clean drinking water. That means that the water that you drink is after the food that you bathe in, the food that it's the water that you clean in. It's you defecate.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what dysentery. But think about that. 20-some thousand kids die every single day because of that. Think about the other thousands of kids who die just because of hunger in general. We throw away so much food that we have enough food to feed the world 3-4 times over. So we don't do that because we're using this as weapons.
Yeah. And if we gave them access to it, then they couldn't charge for it. And then they're mine. And I don't think that's true, though, but that's how it's framed. I don't think it's true.
No, it's not, because if you look at grocery stores, for instance, a grocery store throws out a bunch of food.
Yeah.
That outside they toss it. But not only do they toss it, they make sure that you can't go in and go get it.
They lock the
dumpsters. Excuse is, well, we don't want them getting sick. There's already a date on it. Mm-hmm. So if you go home and go cook that right now, y'all go. Y'all don't want people to get it because you don't want people to have it, because you look at that like a loss. But technically, it's going to be a loss, because as soon as it comes off the floor and you put it somewhere else, it's all of a sudden a loss. So if you gave it to somebody else, it would still be considered a loss.
I promise you, the grocery store that figures this out and says, we need to just take all of our unsold stuff or stuff that's on the verge of crossing over expiration date, and we just open it up and just give it and create our own food pantry. I promise you that grocery store is going to make money. And I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, yes, you're right.
They're going to make money because people are going to be like, I want to support them in their mission. And so I will pay for this thing just so that somebody else can go to the food pantry and have access to food that they can't afford.
That's, I mean, because people are still going to, number one, they're still going to come in and buy because I need to buy today.
Right.
But if I know that on the third Saturday of the month or something like that, that they give away a lot of this food that they were going to dump out anyway, people will come get that.
People will come get that, and people will support that.
Oh, man, that's a good idea.
People will support that. It's like there's an app that I downloaded. It's Too Good to like, basically it's an app that highlights food that people are trying to get rid of. It all in Omaha, for whatever reason, all it does is pull up donuts, but it's bakeries and stuff where you can get stuff at half or a quarter price because it's about to go over.
Yeah, even if you did that, that's cool. Because you can still make a little bit of money, still put it off as a loss.
Right.
If you made a part of your business nonprofit.
But this is what happens with venture capital, bro. This is how that kind of stuff, this is how it ruins everything. Because we have to extract value at every single turn. That's why going to a sporting event is a miserable experience now. Going to a concert is a miserable experience because every single interaction, every single transaction, every point you are having to pay. Every micro thing that you need to do, you have to pay. Some of these places even charge you to get on their Wi-Fi. And they found a way to nickel and dime you at every turn. Vegas is like that. Video games are like that, bro. Like you can't even play a video game with all the microtransactions without microtransactions.
Oh yeah, well, you can buy better swords. You can buy better this. Yeah, yeah.
You know, they ruined it, bro. Like venture capital ruined a lot of this stuff, bro. And so where it's like we have to optimize everything. Everything has to be optimized for fees. All right, so let's get back into this. So a couple of reasons. Social media kind of has shaped how we has shaped how we interpret stuff. It moves too fast. Like stuff on social media moves so fast that we can't even have time to interpret it. Context collapses. A clip's treated like the full conversation. And here's the other side, though, because I'm gonna throw the other side to this. Sometimes, because the idea of something being taken out of context means if I say a thing, if adding the rest of my statement does not change the thing that I said, it's not out of context. So when we talk about old boy, I don't want to say his name too many times, but we talk about old boy that had everybody in a stir or whatnot. People are saying, well, you're taking them out of context, right? Well, out of context means that if I take this statement that he made, right, as an isolated piece, and I pull that out, if I add the rest of the piece to it, it invalidates or changes the fundamental meaning of the piece I extracted. If that's not the case, the clip's not taken out of context. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Platforms reward instant emotional reactions. That's why you have likes and you have the little arrow you can click and give a thumbs up or a smiley face or a laugh. Algorithms push extremes because nuance doesn't spark engagement. Nuance arguments don't get it. That's why I struggle with social media a lot of times, because most of my stuff be having nuance to it. And I don't like taking extremes on anything that I post. But I found by making extreme statements in some of my social media posts, some of my stuff does better. It gets better response rates.
Right.
Even if it doesn't contain extremities in it, if I make it sound like it's an extreme stance, people will take it. I did a video that says nobody watches my shit on YouTube, and that one's doing better than anything I've done. Because people don't. It's a quest for excitement, not to be informed. Okay. So examples are people watching 6-second clips and deciding somebody's entire character. Creators being forced to oversimplify because layer content gets ignored. I have a bias for video. Essays. I watch video essays all the time. One interesting one I'm a point that kind of falls into this conversation is the death of a euphemism by Innuendo Studios, where he talks about once you've normalized what that euphemism stands for, then the euphemism has no more meaning. So if you've normalized a racist euphemism and you're just saying the racist thing instead of having euphemism, you just get rid of the euphemism. That's the death of a euphemism. I'll explain it off the air. Kids consuming edits. My kids do that all the time. Edits and not entire scenes, thinking that they can piece together an entire story from edits, from clips of a thing, like clips of a movie. I know a lot of kids that they will watch movies by just consuming the clips, the highlights, and think that's the entire content of the story.
Right.
So how do we combat this? Y'all got to read and y'all got to think and y'all got to force yourself to think.
And get around other people that do it too.
Right, get around other people.
You gotta get around other people who read too.
And please, 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 while I'm saying that, do not fall into the trap of just being contrarian, because that is not critical thinking.
What does that word mean, please?
Contrarianism, just taking the opposite side just to take the opposite side, just for shits and gigs. You're just going to playing devil's advocate as a personality trait, as opposed to something you're doing in the context of a conversation. Where if I say A, you automatically say Z. Regardless of whether A is true or not, you're just going to say Z. Contrarianism.
Yeah, because that shit's annoying.
Yeah. Contrarianism is not media literacy. It's not intellectual. There's nothing smart about it. You're just saying the opposite of what people are saying just because. That is not real. And so I know a lot of people that have mistaken that. I think his name is Ye. I think his name is Ye's Nor. A lot of Kanye fans do that, bro. It's a weird interaction. I know a lot of Kanye fans, and they do that stuff, and they'll follow along with him. Like, he's just saying the opposite of what everybody else is saying. It doesn't make it true or not true. He's just saying the opposite. He doesn't really have an opinion on the thing. That's not the same thing. Just taking opposite stance is not the same thing as being critical and having media literacy. Okay. Knowing the difference between fact and opinion, symbolism and literalism. That's going to be harder and harder as we start as this gets wrung out of our kids in school. And being able to read context clues as we start de-emphasizing that in the classroom, like we're like almost 2 decades deep in it, it's going to get harder and harder to teach that. You're going to teach that stuff at home. And understanding creators' intent, which also means reading interviews with these creators. Reading what they actually have to say about the thing that they created. So, but yeah, man, I'm looking at it. We're about 2 hours deep here, Fearless, and I got some stuff I want to ask you off air. So, do you have anything that you want to say to kind of wrap this up?
No, man, pick up a goddamn book. Thanks. I mean, and here's the thing, and I tell people all the time, like it could be, like you don't have to sit and read these big, huge, monolithic books that I'll go through. Sometimes, again, like I said, sometimes I'll read something big, and sometimes I'll read something real tiny like this one here. This book is only 169 pages. I read another book that was like, I think less than 100 pages by Jamaica Kincaid. It was probably one of the best books that I've ever read.
Yeah, I had to pull it up here.
Like, yeah, that book was absolutely amazing. So it doesn't matter how many pages it is. Just pick up a goddamn book, man.
A Small Place.
The Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. One of my favorite. If you ever want to learn how marginalized groups feel, read that book. It's not putting it in a thing to make anybody feel bad. It's not critical race theory. It's just some shit that when you're going on vacation, you sometimes forget that there are actually people that live wherever you're going to vacate.
Right.
And you're looking at their home, their situation, and you're looking at it from their standpoint. And you're reading how they see you when you come into their home or to their island or to their country, and you hogwash and you destroy somebody else's culture. So again, like I said, I think that book is only 80 some pages, I think, 89, maybe. How many pages is that book? I want to say that it's, I think what's it called? A Small Place.
Yep.
By Jamaica Kincaid. I'm pretty sure it's on like 89 pages or something like that.
And there's an entire context.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, 81 pages.
There's an entire context. Yeah.
And it is so good.
There's an entire context.
It's so good.
There's an entire context that needs to be addressed, and maybe one of these days we'll address. I don't know if this is the format, but the entire, because I've seen it with the passport bros that will sit there and talk about, I'm gonna go get me a girl from this country or that country, and it's like some of y'all got jammed. Like I've seen one where some cats get jammed up because this girl done sent him a text from some high rise over in Brazil. It's like, don't go over there. don't go over there. You going over to clap some cheeks and you going up with your cheeks getting clapped, walk up in there. Like them people is poor. Them people are dealing with poverty and they see you as an easy lick. And sometimes it is just a matter of you may be broke here, but you rich to them.
Yeah.
And so they have this ideology like, well, I can get this other woman over here. They're more compliant, whoop-de-woo, this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, they know the game. They're familiar with the game just as well as women domestically. But there's a whole concept. There's a whole conversation we can have behind that. What I got going on, guys, I'm still doing my content to cash machine. I'm still teaching people how to business owners how to create content that drives customers to them and stuff like that. Teaching the fundamentals of lighting, audio, camera placement, all that other stuff. And so teach you enough to get started. The minimum I'm about minimum viable. And so I'm not big on having the perfect cinematic quality. I'm worried about, is this video good enough to send out? That's what I'm gonna teach you. And then you can start working on the cinematic quality and stuff as you level up. I got a little school community for that. I also have where is it? I'm still figuring out where this stuff is on here. Media assets. Yeah, I still have my stand store with links to all the stuff I'm talking about. If you're interested, scan that and it'll take you to all my stuff. I'm filling it. I'm actually adding templates and stuff so that you can market your own stuff. You can just plug and play, copy and paste. It has social media templates, emails, the whole nine. And then Fearless has his stand store I'm putting up on screen now. That's Fearless is.
It looks exactly the same, y'all.
It looks the same, and we cannot move this stuff around. I tried earlier around. So this is Fearless's stand store. If you want to sit down and have a philosophical brain, help you sort through some of the stuff you're dealing with, call Fearless.
Yeah, that's literally what our thing is. If you scan the QR code or just take a picture of it, yeah, anytime you need to talk, our stuff is in there. Hit me up, man. We'll sit down and chop it up.
So that's what we got, y'all. I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I love this. I love this. People are tuning in. Thanks, Joshua, for jumping in here.
Yeah, man.
Liberty Twitcher. Hey, man, we're still open. Even though we don't agree on everything, we're still here, right? We're still here. We're still here to fight with you. So anyway, I do appreciate you tuning in. I'm Brian.
Fearless here.
Talk to you guys next week. Peace.